Inside the Sixers. We'll take a look inside the Sixers here. Kevin Kinkead from CrossingBroad.com will be our Sixers guest today as the Sixers have the night off. They play the Hornets tomorrow. They are in Charlotte. We'll have the game for you here on 97.3 ESPN. And, of course, Kevin Kinkead has covered the Sixers the last couple of years. We'll get some good insight from him on, what's different about this Sixers team. I want to get his take on how Doc Rivers' offense looks a little different, what they're doing with Ben Simmons. But first, Bros, what do you got?
Deal that you need to hit on. All you have to do to get your share of these huge prizes is enter the DraftKings free Super Bowl prediction challenge. Once you submit your picks, you will get a free instant prize up to $25,000. The top prize, $1 million. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code 973 when you sign up. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, there he is, Kevin Kinkead, a fine WVU alum, as he joins us here to talk a little Sixers inside the Sixers. And Kevin, this team is last year was like painful to get through. We had to watch, and it was like painful every night. This team is a lot more fun. But what do you see that's different about this team when you watch them? Like, is it just as simple as they switch two players in and out, and that's the difference? But or is it something that sticks out to you as to why this team seems more fun than last year's team? I don't know that Kevin's hearing us right now. Do you hear us, Kevin? Kevin, are you hearing us? I see Kevin, but I don't know that he's hearing us right now.
It seems like he is not, because I'm hearing you.
All right. So Kevin is not hearing us. So maybe we can have Josh reach out to him or something. And there's Kevin. He's kind of staring at us, and he's just saying, "Yeah, he's not hearing us."
He's giving us the earphone look here.
Yeah. Well, you can answer the question. He says no audio. All right, we'll see if he can. Josh, maybe you can give him a call and see if he can hear us, because he's saying he's not hearing us. But we'll get Kevin here on a second. Now, you would figure that he has used the video many of times, and that this is something that he normally does.
I feel like if he was to speak, we would hear him, because I hear him fondling around a bit. So I guess it's just he doesn't know what he's responding to.
Yeah, exactly. He's just kind of like, hey, he just typed to me, I have no audio. And there he goes. He's going to pick up his phone now. We're going to try to get him here on the phone and see what's going on. But he definitely has the ability to talk. He just couldn't hear the question.
University, you guys just don't learn anything there, apparently.
Well, it's funny. We'll be able to watch him talk like on his phone. It'll be kind of fun there, right? All right,
yeah, look, he's reacting to Josh.
Yeah. So he said that he said the WVU people can't figure out how to get the audio to. We could hear you, but you couldn't hear us.
Oh, that's not true. A West Virginia joke, that's uncalled for. We're just having a little technical difficulties over here. But it's always good to be on the Sports Bash, especially with another fine Mountaineer and Mike Gill.
Yeah, I saw the WVU kids today. Did you see the video of them going down the hill on refrigerators?
Yeah, look, points for creativity, right? You gotta find whatever is available and make use of it. So good for them. Yeah, it's just college ingenuity, right?
So you've been around this team for a while. You covered the Brett era, and now we're seeing Doc. Is it as simple, Kevin, that they just switched two guys and this team's now fun? Because last year was miserable. It was painful to get through that season. They really only made a handful of tweaks. They switched two guys out. And entering the year, I don't think people were like, well, this team could be a finals contender. I think most people thought they were still a middle-of-the-road team. So why are now maybe the expectations better?
Yeah, it's interesting because, when they made the change to bring in Seth Curry and to bring in Danny Green, I was just kind of laughing to myself because I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, this is a team that Brett would love to coach. And it fit his kind of team, space and pace and move up and down the floor. And in a lot of ways, it was reminiscent, really, of what the 2017 team was. So you got Joel Embiid, you got Ben Simmons. Let's say Seth Curry is like your J.J. Redick, your sniper. You got a 3-and-D guy in Danny Green who's not going to take a ton of shots, but he can be your Robert Covington and get some shots up, and play defense on the wing. And then you had Dario Saric and Tobias Harris kind of reprising the same role. Of course, Tobias a better player and not just a stand in the corner and shoot 3-pointers kind of player. But beyond that, Joel Embiid having a career year, kind of hitting his peak. And, Doc just kind of knowing when to press the buttons and when not to press the buttons, I don't think Brett was a bad X's and O's coach at all. I think over the years you saw him dial up some good stuff. He was pretty good on ATO plays and stuff with the whiteboard. I just think that Doc, with the experience he has, is just better kind of knowing when to put his fingerprints on it and when not to, And you saw that in the LA game, the play that they closed on, that multi-action play that they won on. You saw it the other night when they went 2-3 zone down the stretch. So probably the combination of all those things.
So Ben Simmons obviously is a maddening guy. His scoring average is way down, and then people wanted to trade him. But what's happened recently that his game and his scoring has gone up?
Just the commitment to aggression and that commitment to assertiveness. I think you look at his shot chart from the other night, he was 9 for 12. And if you go look at like the visualization of it, like a plot or whatever, like every single shot came within like 2 feet of the basket. It looked like a Dwight Howard 2010 shot plot or something, but they're just doing little things to try to get him to be in that mindset. Doc Rivers dropped a good quote the other night about they set up a couple double drags for Ben in early transition. Basically what a double drag is, because I know it's not a visual medium, it's radio, but you just basically set 2 staggered screens in early transition, near midcourt, and then Ben can sort of run off that. There's a lot of moving parts, get him to the rim. Indiana, for some reason, likes to play their bigs up on pick and roll defense. So there's going to be gaps there for him to get there, So it's about that commitment to finishing through contact and to rounding the corner and to getting downhill. And, he can be a point scorer if he has to. They have to change, too, how they play. I think the good thing about the other night was in the fourth quarter, they changed how they played without Joel Embiid on the floor. Because they were 0-4 without him previously, and it's like they just go and try to play the same game. But you can't really play the same game, So they went 2-3 zone. Ben was more aggressive. Furkan Korkmaz was in the game in the fourth quarter. And, with Ben, it's just like, I understand people are frustrated that he appears to be the same player on offense, but, people always got to frame the argument in a specific way. It's not that I know people are disappointed about that, but again, you look at a guy who's had he can do literally every other thing. So people make it seem like it's a negative that he doesn't shoot. But like in my case, I say, well, imagine what he could be with a shot. He'd be the most complete player to come through Philadelphia in a long time, the NBA in a long time. So I think that's why it's such a hot button issue, because people imagine what he could be if he had it,
Are you afraid that will limit this team in the postseason, though, down in the half-court sets and when things intensify? But I think that's where, because, this is the first year I truly snapped. I was a big defender, but, I lost my mind a little bit. And I'm just afraid that when it comes down to those playoff moments again, if he has to hide in that dunker spot or whatever, that's where my concern is.
No, you're right, bro. It's because it was never an issue of that's why it was always so stupid when people make these jokes about, well, can they coexist or not? Well, I mean, him and Embiid, they won 53 games, the two of them, But it's one thing to win these regular season games. There's always going to be a question of, how that works in the fourth quarter, late in games when they have to have these half-court possessions in the playoffs, And, so far, it's kind of played out the way it has played out in the past. If you go to that L.A. game from last week and you look at the play they called to win it, just multi-option, right? Okay, there's a pin down screen, Seth Curry and Joel Embiid. Then they end up in a Curry and Harris pick and roll, and they get the switch, and he drives an Alex Caruso and he hits the shot. To your point, Ben Simmons is just standing in the dunker spot the entire time. So right now the answer is no. Nothing has changed as far as his utility in the half court in these late game scenarios. But, if they can execute the way they did on that play, that might be feasible. That might be tenable. I know it's maddening because you're looking at the same Ben that you've seen for the last 4 years, but if everybody else is doing what they have to do and they can find a way to work around it, then it may be suitable. They may be able to live that way.
I guess, Kevin, one of the questions would be then, if Ben's scoring 11 points a game, can they win that way? I guess the follow would be they can maybe if the guys around him do their job, kind of what you said. One of the reasons why his scoring average is down is Shake Milton scoring 15 a game 2 weeks ago. Now he's not, and Maxey was scoring 10. Now those guys' numbers have gone down, and Simmons has gone up. But it's almost like people want to see him score 16, and if he only scores 11, that's good enough. I said, well, what if the other guys are scoring more? What does it matter?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And, it's funny because we always, we look at Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as being the two superstars. It's always how we framed the narrative around this team. But the fact of the matter is that Tobias Harris makes the most money. So if Tobias and Joel Embiid are scoring, Seth Curry's hitting some 3-pointers, Danny Green's hitting some 3-pointers, they don't need Ben Simmons to score. You know, I mean, you'd love to see it, and we want him to take the next step forward. But if those four guys are playing the way they are right now, Tobias's numbers are just about right where they were when he was playing for Doc, those 52 or 53 some games in Los Angeles, which are close to career highs, and some of them are career highs. And Joel is hitting career highs as well. So, I mean, the answer to that is Ben really doesn't have to be anybody different if we look at it as Tobias and Joel being the 1 and 2 scorer.
Daryl Morey was quoted mentioning being championship or bust. What type of moves do you think is needed and that he's talking about? Is it a backup primary ball handler? Are they sold on Shake? I know they keep mentioning the power forward position, so I think that's something they're going to look at. But what do you think that means when Daryl Morey says that? What do you think's next?
You know, people talk about J.J. Redick. I wouldn't make a trade for J.J. because of his salary. I think he'll probably hit the buyout market. So maybe you look at it that way. Backup power forward for sure, because right now with Mike Scott, they have to, you know, all they can really do is stagger. You know, it's Tobias and him, and that's pretty much it. Dwight Howard's interesting. You know, he's been up and down a little bit this year. I feel like when he's relegated to just doing his role, which is playing defense and rebounding, they're okay. But you could always use more shooting for sure. I think defensively, they're okay, but I think we're beyond blockbuster move at this point. I don't think obviously James Harden is not happening, but Zach LaVine's probably not happening too. I mean, this is a pretty damn good team as they are. You know, so you try to add around the fringes and do a little bit of what you did maybe in 2017 when you had the Ilyasova and the Bellinelli kind of additions. But I don't think there's any reason for them to do anything crazy right now.
Kevin, do you anticipate seeing more of that zone based on the personnel that they have? I know it's unconventional for an NBA team to kind of utilize that on a night-to-night basis. They probably did it because of no Joel, and they had to be a little bit, you know, they were down. But did they find something to say, we should incorporate this more?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the personnel for it is amazing. You know, I mean, you remember when Matisse was drafted last year, ironically, one of the knocks that people had on him was that he played 2-3 zone at Washington, you know, under a Jim Boeheim disciple. And people were like, well, is he going to be able to make the transition from playing, you know, cheap, you know, because zone is like stigmatized as being cheap and easy, right? You know, can he play that? Can he go from that to playing man-to-man in the NBA? And that's no problem, right? So you take his length, and then you put another all-NBA defensive player next to him, Ben Simmons, and that's an impossible, you know, front court or back court, I'm sorry, to get through there. And then imagine if you had Joel Embiid on the floor, you could have him down there in Dwight Howard's spot, and that's tough to get around. Now, good NBA teams are great passing teams, and they're going to be able to find gaps and hit a couple of 3-pointers. It worked against a team like Indy, who doesn't take a lot of 3-pointers and isn't a good 3-point shooting team, but I don't see why they can't go back to that for sure. You only come out of zone really when teams figure it out, and when you go into it and they don't figure it out, you can stay in it as long as you want to, and that's what they did the other night.
Joel has obviously been insane this year. What impresses you the most when watching him play this season?
You know, it's just how he's added every level to the scoring now. And, you know, because we know that he was dominant on the inside. We know he was great from 10 to 12 feet. But now they're running like these delay actions and stuff for him where they just hand him the ball on the 3-point line. He doesn't necessarily have to shoot the 3-pointer, but he's able to create from there. He's able to get into the paint. He's able to feel contact and draw fouls. The way that he's getting to the line is how would I put it? It's absurd, the numbers that he's putting up there. You know, if you go by per 36 numbers, you know, so if everybody in the league plays the same amount of minutes and you extrapolate that, right now Joel Embiid is getting to the foul line 12.2 times per 36 minutes. Just for the sake of the exercise, because I was interested, I went back and looked at like 25 years of that statistic, and nobody was even close to hitting that. Not Giannis, not prime Dwight Howard, not prime Shaquille O'Neal. Per 36, they were only getting the foul line like 10 times per game. He's going to shatter that number if he keeps doing it at the way he is this year. And those trips to the foul line just unlock the rest of his game and get him into a rhythm, and then he just starts rolling. I don't know how many times we've looked up this year, and I was sitting there thinking, like, where did 27 points come from? Where did 29 points come from? Because he's just like ripping off 10 to 12 in these like batches in like these second quarters and third quarters, and you're like, wow, holy crap, he's already where he is. So just kind of to answer the question, just for him to kind of be able to put it together at every level now and feel that contact and just sort of master the art of of the rip through, which he was already good at. You know, he's really, really fleshed that out to like elite status now.
Well, Kevin, I guess in like closing, we've watched Ben and Joel together, and we all just assume they're the two guys. Tobias is in there, but maybe in the years past they weren't ready to win. They were young. They just weren't ready. Do we feel that Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, quite frankly, have matured to where they're ready to win?
I think so too, and that's a great point. And that's not anything that you can really, qualify or quantify. Sometimes it just clicks for people, and that's the thing that I kind of feel bad for Brett in a way because he got these guys at their earliest, and it's funny because sometimes, like, I think we all have this idea that development is like a linear path, right? Like a guy comes into the NBA, he's going to shoot 40%, then he's going to shoot 42%, then he's going to shoot 44%. It's going to kind of, go up on a slope, a grade, right? I'm making a motion with my arm. But that's not always the case. Sometimes it just clicks with people. And like in your third year, your fourth year, it's just like a light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, aha, I get it. Or the personnel that you're playing against is different, or you just like everybody I think reaches this moment, any job you do, any profession where it just starts to click and it becomes automatic for you. And I don't know if that's where Ben is right now, but Joel is definitely there.
Yeah.
27 years old. I think like you look at those median ages where people hit those primes and just start to take off. He's right at that age right now. So it's been a pleasure it's been like a privilege to watch,
It has been, as last year, as painful as it was, 1 year has been such a difference, especially in watching Joel Embiid. You're right about that. Kevin Kinkead covers the 76ers. CrossingBroad.com is where you can check out more of his work. Sixers off tonight. They're back tomorrow, and then back-to-back they'll play Thursday. We'll see if the big man is back dealing with that back stuff. But, it's a lot more fun this year watching this team for sure. And as you said, Brett was not the most popular guy amongst the fans. It would have been interesting to see how that would have been different this year, but we'll check that out. All right, Kevin, appreciate it, man.
No problem. Maybe next time I'll get my audio-visual situation sorted, all right?
Yeah, man. You fix that, man. He, like August, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.